What type of visits would you like moving forward?
No visit.
You stated that you want no contact or no visitation with Michael and Micah. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that you have concerns for the safety of Micah. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And yet you have not told this court one way that Mr. Spencer has posed a threat to Micah specifically. Have you? And Michael has tried to call the child over the phone. Is that correct?
No.
So you've never received any phone calls from Michael trying to speak to the child?
No, only his wife called me trying to speak to me.
And Michael has tried to involve himself in Micah's life. Is that accurate?
Yes.
You have rejected this involvement. Is that correct?
I just told him let the courts handle it.
So you refuse to allow Michael to be a part of Micah's life until the courts handled it. Is that correct?
Based off his violent history.
Okay, ma'am,
yes.
ma'am, I understand you want to get your side out, but I just need a yes or no.
This is number 13. Miss Alexander, can you update me? Tell me where we are.
Your Honor, Miss Davis is requesting a reset. This is the first reset since DNA testing has been done. She's asking for a reset so she can consult with an attorney and file her appropriate pleadings.
And Miss Sykes, are you and your client wanting to go forward today?
Yes, Judge, I believe that Ms. Davis has had adequate time to get an attorney and that this is just yet another stalling delay tactic. We're ready to go forward today. She's had time, like I said, to get an attorney and file the appropriate pleadings. She has not, and I believe that a reset in this case would be prejudicial to my client at this point.
Miss Davis, it appears that in December, we were together.
Yes, we were together in December and February, I believe. One of the dates my attorney did come because I just started a new job, so he came in lieu of me.
Mom, I think you've had opportunity previously to get an attorney. If you wanted an attorney, I would at least be looking to go forward at least on a temporary basis and get some temporary orders in place.
And again, I totally agree with you. We did have time. We just didn't understand. There were notices when we were notified of the court dates. It would be the day before. And so we would send her extension because we were not notified through mail. Like today was my first day even getting DNA results.
Do you have documents that you intend for the court to consider today?
Yes.
Did you send those to the court and to all parties?
When I called child support.
Mom, stop. Listen to my question. Did you send them to the court and to all the parties 24 hours prior to this hearing?
When I talked to child support the other
yes or no, Mom?
No.
Okay, then those documents will not be coming in today. We're going to do at least temporary orders if we don't reach a final resolution. Miss Alexander, do you think you need to talk to the parties more? Or are you ready for a hearing?
No, let me talk to the parties more and we'll see if we can get some kind of temporary.
Miss Alexander, update me. Where are we?
Your Honor, we have an agreement as to the child support amount. That's going to be $435, and that will begin April 1st, 2025. And Dad is also going to cover the health and dental through his employer, and retroactive support will be reserved for final. And the only issues that before the court is to address family violence, the paternity, conservatorship, and visits. The state would like to call Miss Davis. Miss Davis, what is your full name?
Cameron Davis.
And what is the name of the child before the court?
Micah Davis.
And was there some DNA testing that was done?
Yes, we just completed DNA testing.
And those results show that it's a 99.999% that Mr. Spencer cannot be excluded as the father, therefore he is the biological father. Are you asking the court to find that Mr. Spencer is the biological father of Micah?
Yes.
Is there any family violence between you and Mr. Spencer?
The family violence between the two of us has just always been harassment and threats.
And when was the last time that there was any issues as to any threats or harassment?
Directly to me, December 2022.
And has there been no other issues between you and him since then?
Since then, I have been in no contact. There has been some other evidence I have received.
Non-responsive after that between her. No, Judge.
Sustained.
Miss Davis, does Mr. Spencer know where you live?
Yes.
And moving forward, if you were to move, would you have any concerns if your address was put into the court record?
Yes.
And what concerns would they be?
His history of family violence and threats.
Now, I'm going to ask you I'm going to move on to something else. Where does Micah primarily live, or who does Micah primarily live with?
With me.
Who makes all the day-to-day decisions for Micah?
I do.
And who makes all the major decisions for Micah?
I do.
Has Dad assisted you in any of those day-to-day decisions or major decisions?
No.
What is it you are asking from the court as it relates to conservatorship?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I would object. She doesn't have any pleadings on file for any request to the court, so I would object to any consideration for what she may be asking for conservatorship.
And Judge, the state has.
Yeah, the state's got pleadings on file, so I need something more specific though, so we can get an answer.
Miss Davis, what is it you're looking for as to conservatorship? Are you asking for so many managing or joint managing?
I'm asking for sole managing, just the history of violence, the threats and harassment, the neglect and unfitness as a parent.
When is the last time Dad had any visits with Mike?
Last visit we had with Dad was August 2022.
How many hours was that? Was it a whole day?
Dad was on an ankle monitor for another case then, so he only had Sunday visitations available. So I would say about 1 to 3 hours maybe on Sundays. He used to come by to see Micah.
Do you happen to know what county that Dad lives in?
Harris.
Prior to that, how often did Dad have any visits with Micah?
It was sporadic.
And what is the longest visit that Dad has had with Micah?
I would say the longest visit was maybe the beginning of 2022. It was like 6 to 7 hours because it was a supervised visit. I was around and it was a water park visit. So it was a couple of hours.
Has Dad had any overnight visit?
When Micah was fairly small, around 2, I stayed in a hotel nearby, just again, because Micah has medical issues. And it was probably like a visit from 7 p.m. the prior day to about 8 the next morning. So,
And that was, how old was Micah?
he was a little bit over 2. So
And you said you stayed at a hotel. What county was that in?
that was in Harris County.
And was that the only overnight visit that Dad has had?
Yes.
What type of visits would you like moving forward?
My primary concern is my child's safety, just the documented history of evidence.
Objection, Judge, non-responsive to the question asked.
Stay. Mom, you've got to answer just the question.
What type of visits would you like moving forward?
No visit.
And why are you asking for no visits?
Based off of my child's safety first, there's no relationship between him and my child. With the ongoing case that he's involved in now, it would be horrendous to introduce my child to someone that may be incarcerated. Just based off the history of violence and neglect, no relationship between him and my child, and just putting my child's safety first as he is out on bond right now.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Sykes.
Can you please state your address for the record?
Forney, Texas, 75126. And that has changed now, but I don't want to give you my new address with Dad on the line.
And it's your position, though, that Mr. Spencer knows the address that you currently are at. Is that what you testified to earlier?
Yes.
How does he know that?
He texted to his wife that he knew my address because he Googled it, and he knew I lived on the first floor. And he said he was coming over there.
You stated that you want no contact or no visitation with Michael and Micah. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that you have concerns for the safety of Micah. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And yet you have not told this court one way that Mr. Spencer has posed a threat to Micah specifically. Have you?
I do have evidence of that and police reports. So
Where
not
he-
just by word.
Where he was violent towards Micah?
Moved away. So for the last 3
Listen to my question, Ms. Davis. Do you have any evidence of Michael Spencer being violent specifically towards the child, Micah?
Yes.
And did you share that evidence with defense counsel or with respondent or with the court?
I haven't had the opportunity to.
So no, you haven't. And
This was-
that's fine. And despite these concerns that you've had between Michael and Micah, you've allowed Micah to visit Michael numerous times. Is that correct?
Supervised. Yes, ma'am.
And you have allowed Micah to visit overnight and keep Micah overnight. Is that correct?
That was once at 2 years old.
The water park, you mentioned that you guys took Micah there together. Is that correct?
Supervised. Yes.
And you and Michael did not stay in a hotel as a family together that weekend?
We stayed in a hotel because did Michael tell you he
Yes
showed
or
up
no?
at my house?
Yes or no?
Yes.
So was Micah present at that hotel?
Yes.
You stated that visitation has been sporadic over the course of these past few years. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that you have prevented Michael from seeing Micah?
No.
Has Michael been allowed to see Micah over these past few years?
No.
I'm sorry. I don't understand how he has not been allowed to see Micah, but you also have not prevented him from seeing Micah.
Because the last time I saw Michael was on an ankle monitor for
Okay,
the
David.
other child's
David.
meds. Go ahead.
Hold on. Mr. Spencer, we lost you. Right, there he is.
Ms. Davis,
Okay.
I'm asking
Go
you,
ahead. Mhm.
I'm asking you if you have allowed Michael to see Micah.
Yes, I have not. In the last 3 years, no, he has not seen Michael.
So the answer is no then. Is that correct?
Correct.
But he has tried to see Micah. Is that correct?
He hasn't per se. He texts us like, "Happy birthday. How's Micah?" He
Miss
hasn't per
Davis.
se tried to see him. No.
So he has never requested to see Micah.
No. Everything's been a happy birthday.
Isn't it true that you moved away? You moved away with Micah.
I moved away December 2022.
And when you moved away, you did not tell Mr. Spencer that you were doing so.
Yes, I did.
And so you told him where you were going?
Yep, I told him Dallas, Texas, and I told him that the day of my son's birthday when he left a gift on my porch.
And tell him what address you would be keeping.
I didn't have an address at that time. My
So-
family made me pick up and
thank you.
move.
So as far as you moving, you moved away and there was no address provided to Mr. Spencer to see Micah.
Correct.
And during these past few years, Michael has tried to give support to the children in the form of gifts to the child, right?
Yep, I asked.
That's enough. That's enough.
Mom, yes or no?
I was about to speak. That's why I stopped.
I don't need you to speak. I want you to say yes or no
Understand.
when you can. Go ahead, Councilman.
And Michael has tried to call the child over the phone. Is that correct?
No,
So you've never received any phone calls from Michael trying to speak to the child?
no, only his wife called me trying to speak to me.
And Michael has tried to involve himself in Micah's life. Is that accurate?
Yes.
You have rejected this involvement. Is that correct?
I just told him let the courts handle it.
So you refuse to allow Michael to be a part of Micah's life until the courts handled it. Is that correct?
Based off his violent history.
Okay, ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I understand you want to get your side out, but I just need a yes or no. It's up to you. Michael would have no relationship with Micah, would he?
No,
Okay.
he would.
And what?
He would have a
Okay,
relationship.
thank you.
Hear either of you. I can't hear either of you.
Just yes or no, Miss Davis.
Can you ask
And
the question again so I can answer it correctly? I think we got joined in. So
And if it was up to you, despite Michael being the biological father of Micah, you would have it that there's no relationship between Michael and Micah. Is that accurate?
no.
You just said yes. So did you miss
No,
him?
I didn't. I said no. I said no.
No, as in what? I'm sorry. No, you.
I would never stop a relationship with him and his father.
So in what ways have you helped a relationship between him and his
Council,
father?
we need to move along. We need to move along. So I get that mom wants to have no visits. So in a minute, I'm going to ask Ms. Sykes and her client what dad is proposing for visits. So let's move on if you've got other questions on other issues, Ms. Sykes.
You stated, I have a few more questions, Judge. Thank you. You stated that Michael is unfit as a parent. What evidence of that do you have as it pertains to Micah and there's his unfitness?
Over the course when he was around Micah, he was on an ankle monitor. He was unable to provide then. And I still allowed Micah to see him in a supervised visitation. And Mike just went cold turkey. He stopped showing up.
All right, what? And then you stated that Mr. Spencer's mental health is not adequate at this time. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What evidence do you have of that?
The one incident that made me start to supervise my visits with Micah, make sure I supervise my visits with Michael, was he stabbed himself in front of his other child's mother. He was admitted into a psychiatric house.
Were you there?
But no, but he called me
Okay, so you
directly from there.
Understood. No further. Pass the witness, Judge. Mr. Spencer, are you who reside? Okay, where do you currently reside?
Harris County,
How long have you lived there?
my whole life.
And who resides there with you?
Currently, I live with my mother.
And are you married?
Yes,
How long have you been married?
10 months.
Can you state the name of the child of this suit?
Micah Davis,
And how old is Micah?
5,
And when was he born?
October 31st, 2019.
And are you asking this court that the parent-child relationship be established for all purposes?
Yes,
Do you have other children?
yes.
How many other children do you have?
1,
And how old is your daughter?
4,
What's her name?
Zoe Spencer,
And where does she live?
Harris County.
And Judge, I have no further questions for this purpose. I'll call him as a witness for my case.
Yeah, go on, Ms. Sykes.
Oh, ask them all.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so, how often do you see Zoe?
Before the 3 to 4 days a week.
Is this a split custody situation?
Yes.
Describe to me your residence.
We live in my mother's home. There's a total of 5 bedrooms. Me and all my mother's kids live here. Me and Zoe have our own room, and everybody else has their own.
And does Micah have a room there?
Michael will be staying with us. We have the largest room in the house.
And are you currently employed?
Yes, ma'am.
And where do you work?
Kier, Dr. Pepper.
Were you and Cameron ever in an intimate relationship?
Yes.
And when did you and Cameron split up?
2019, December.
And what was the basis for this split?
Unreconcilable differences.
And prior to splitting up, how long were the two of you in a dating relationship?
Prior to that, 4 years.
And when Micah was born, were you at the hospital?
Yes.
Were you in the delivery room?
Yes.
And after the birth of Micah, did you and Cameron reside together?
Yes, ma'am. Shortly for 3 months.
And after the two of you separated, how often did you see him?
It was very sporadic due to me and his mother just not being able to get along. Sometimes I would see him 2 to 3 months at a time. Sometimes I would go 3 or 4 months without seeing him.
Was seeing Micah in your control?
No,
Whose decision was that?
his mother's.
And did she allow you to see him when you wanted to?
Sometimes.
And when Micah was younger and you saw him more frequently, did you make his bottles?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you regularly attend trips to the pediatrician?
I've only attended 1.
Did you assist with making arrangements for his birthdays?
Yes.
And how would you describe your relationship with Micah throughout the time you've been able to spend with him?
My son loves me. Even with us having separation periods, I walk in the room and his face lights up. He knows exactly who his father is.
And how old was Micah the last time you saw him?
2, going on 3.
And do you believe that Cameron is interfering with your relationship with Micah?
Yes.
Are you currently being denied visitation with the child?
Yes.
Have you requested to see the child?
Yes, ma'am. Last year I texted her and notified her I will be in Dallas.
Stop. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I apologize.
How often have you requested to see Micah?
Recently, once, last year,
Why is that? Why have you not requested to see him more than that?
because I knew mom wouldn't allow it.
Has Cameron informed you of anything related to the child's health, education, or welfare?
No, ma'am.
Do you know where the child is residing?
No,
Do you know whether or not the child is in school?
no,
Did she ever tell you when she was really leaving to relocate?
no,
Is this concerning to you?
Yes.
What efforts have you put forth to try to have a relationship with your child despite her interference?
Reaching out to her in the relationship she has with my aunt.
Have you tried to send gifts and contribute to the child?
Yes.
Has she accepted those?
Yes.
Okay. And what type of visitation are you asking for?
Just the standard weekends, holidays.
Okay. And are you asking to be named a joint managing conservator?
Yes.
And what suggestions do you have that should be implemented to help you and Cameron communicate and co-parent?
Some type of parenting course. She's even suggested parenting apps that keeps track of all our conversations between us. I'm open to anything to get my son back.
Do you want your child to have a relationship with Cameron?
Yes, of course.
Do you believe that such a relationship is important?
Yes, every kid deserves both parents.
And if given the chance to co-parent with Cameron, will you attempt to facilitate a relationship between Cameron and the child?
Yes.
And to date, do you have any criminal convictions?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever been accused of being violent toward any children?
No, ma'am.
Has CPS ever been called to investigate you or any allegations involving children?
No, ma'am.
That's the witness, Judge.
Mom, Dad, counsels, I'm going to make a ruling. This is just a temporary order, and I'm going to need some input on this. I believe there's lots of information out there that I'm not getting, and Dad pleading the fifth doesn't help because I don't know if there's a finding of family violence out there. This is what we're going to do on a temporary basis. I would encourage Ms. Davis to talk to an attorney. Mom, if Dad were to have supervised visitation, who would you suggest to be at the visits with your child that is not you?
I would, maybe my daughter.
And what's her name?
Tamaya Derby.
Mr. Spencer, do you have any issue with Ms. Davis's adult daughter?
No, ma'am.
I think it is important that Mr. Spencer and Micah have a relationship, so we're going to start some supervised visits. This is just temporary basis, but we want to get some consistent visits with the child and Dad. Dad, you have a split custody arrangement with the other child. What days of the week do you have the other child?
Currently, I have my daughter right now Tuesdays through Saturdays.
So if you were going to have a visitation on the weekend, could you make it first, third, and fifth Saturday or Sunday? Would one of those days work for you?
Yes, ma'am. Preferably Fridays or Saturdays. Those are the days I'm currently off right now. But if it has to be Sundays, I can get that worked out.
And about how long does it take you to get here? 4 hours?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I say something?
No, not yet. So the visitations are going to be the first, third, and fifth Saturdays of the month, 12 to 4, supervised by Miss Davis's adult daughter. Miss Davis, is there a public location close to your daughter's home or your home that would be appropriate for the child to be at for a few hours?
We may have to change that because
I'm just asking you a question. Is there a public place?
I think there's one in Arlington, is what an attorney said. There's like a place where you could go for supervised visits.
That's not what we're doing. I want just a public place where the child will be comfortable with your daughter and Mr. Spencer for visitation.
Possibly, yes, in the area. We would just have to find it. Yes.
We're finding it right this minute. That's my point.
Well,
I'm
my
asking
issue,
you.
what I was saying, you told me not to say much, was my daughter actually heads back to college, so she may not be the perfect person. Because
Okay, so give me another name.
I'm thinking of another name, but because I didn't get to say anything, I have a protection order on the rise. Is that going to be interrupted with this?
I don't know. If you don't have anything filed with the court today, I don't know what will happen in the future. So who else? Mom, if you want Dad's visits to be supervised,
Because but I'm moving. That's what I told his attorney. My last month in Kaufman County is this month. My lease is up on the 31st.
So I need a person, Mom. If you want supervised visits, you got to give me a person, because if not, he doesn't have supervised visits.
Well, I'm trying to see how he gets supervised visits.
I'm not asking. I'm just asking if you have a person.
Jarmel Blunt. Blunt.
Stop. Miss Sykes, who would you suggest to be the supervisors? Maybe someone that Dad knows.
I suggested his aunt, but it seemed
Dad's aunt.
Yes. And what's her name, Mr. Spencer?
Alvita Herbert.
Alvita.
Okay, so that will be the supervisor. It will be the first, third, and fifth Saturday, 12 to 4. Can you think of a place, Miss Sykes? You're not from up here either. So let's see. Is there a place, a public place?
There's not much in Kaufman. We would probably have to go outside a little bit just because it's on the outskirts. It's a newer kind of suburban town, so it's not much. But like a Walmart, it's not even a McDonald's. It's not like a place or anything in that area.
And so many of the McDonald's closed down their play areas.
Yeah.
So let's do this. We will pick a place for the supervisor, Dad's aunt, to pick the child up, and then the aunt can choose where the child and Dad go. Mom, where would you like the pickup to be for Dad's aunt on those Saturdays?
If I'm going to be in another city, do I just pick a place?
Pick a place.
Maybe the Walmart in Forney. It's a local.
Walmart in Forney. That's where the aunt will pick up. And the order will say that the supervisor and mom can agree otherwise, and that's fine. You can communicate with the aunt and decide otherwise if that doesn't work. So that'll get some visitation started. We're going to keep that visitation until we come back. I'll name the parties managing conservators. I'm not making any findings regarding if there's a need for sole managing conservatorship yet. I don't have enough information. I'm going to reserve the issue of non-disclosure till the final hearing and require that both parties have their email address in the court order. The child support, as agreed to by the parties, of $435 to begin April 1st. Dad to cover the health insurance and dental insurance. We'll reserve the issue of retroactive support. Sorry, I find that that Mr. Spencer is the father of the child. No residency restriction at this time since the parties live so far apart. I think that gets the important thing started. I will order that the parties communicate through app close, and that's free. It's an app and it's free. And do your communication through that. Until that happens, I am ordering that the email addresses be in the court order.
Can
Yes.
we get some sort of like phone or video visitation established at this time?
I object. I
What's your
believe it
objection?
should come on. Because Michael was 2 the last time he saw him. He doesn't know him, and I think it should be eased
Okay,
in.
this is what we'll do. Then after Dad completes 3 Saturday visits, he'll get FaceTime or other video visits on Thursday evenings. Dad to contact the number given to him by mom through app close, and that will start after he finishes 3 Saturday visits. Dad, if you don't go to your visits, then you don't get more visits. Mom, if you don't show up with the visits and don't cooperate, and you do not communicate through app close and do not provide him with a number for the FaceTime, then Dad will get more visits. You guys are going to have to communicate. You don't have to like each other, but you've got a child and you've got years ahead of you with this child. So this will be a temporary order. I'm going to ask Miss Alexander to draft that up and send it to Miss Sykes for her review. Mom, Dad, once I get it, I'll sign it. The Attorney General's office will make sure both of you get a copy. Let's all look at our calendars and pick a date to come in person at the Kaufman County Courthouse and finalize this case. July the 11th at 1.
But doesn't
Okay.
he have to get approved to leave the county?
Mom, not your time to ask questions. Then for today, everyone's free to leave. You can just hit that button that says leave the meeting so I can move on to something else. Any more questions for me?
Okay.
Very good.